Okay, so, all right, you ready for our next storyteller?
Yeah.
This guy is such a doll. You ready? He's a comedy writer, and give it up because he's also a PA, and you know that shit work. For Nick Davis Productions, give it up for Daniel Fischer.
Hi, everybody. Hey, good to see you. Great to be here. I hope everyone in the back can hear me. It's a very big place. Thankfully, my parents were kind enough to show up, although if not for the 2-drink minimum requirement, I'm not sure they'd be here. I actually feel like I'm in school now because I really have to go to the bathroom. And I can't. I remember this one time in 5th grade. So it was the beginning of the year, and the teacher asked us a question. And I was a pretty bad kid in 5th grade. You know, if you had a behavior spectrum, I'd be on the bad side of that spectrum. And she asked the class a question, and I knew the answer, but fearing that I wouldn't be called on, which was usually the case from pre-1A until 4th grade, which I'm not going to go into right now, I decided to gamble and committed the worst, most heinous crime known to a student. I called out. Now, when the problem was that the teacher decided to give me an X, and it really wasn't fair because it was the beginning of the year, and supposedly we were all on good terms, and she should have known that I wasn't calling out, maliciously, as I would for the last 9/10 of the school year. So I was trying to plead my case, in that self-deprecating way that only cute kids can. I work in a school, and ugly kids they can't do it. I promise you it's impossible. That's what they do. There's no way that they could bribe anyone through their looks or anything. It's just not going to work. So I'm pleading my case, and I'm looking at the other students, trying to see maybe they're going to offer me some support, and no one wants to get involved in my situation, and I really don't blame them because it was the beginning of school. No one wants to be on the bad list in the first few days of school. That's like an amateur move. We were in 5th grade. We were smart. We knew how the system works. So no one wanted to do that. And I remember we had this kid in our class, Alex, really smart kid. He was actually quite shorter than me at that time. Right now he's probably taller than me. And he actually reminded me from Dexter's Laboratory, because he had a squeaky voice, and he was really smart. He was always talking about science projects. He just reminded me of Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory, for those of you who ever watched that show or for some strange reason still watch that show. And I remember looking at him, and he did the smart thing of not at all getting involved in my little dilemma over there, because what ended up happening is I ended up losing 2 weeks of recess. And I remember thinking at the time that I had zero reason to be in school for those 2 weeks, because the only thing that I thought about and really planned around was the recess portion of the day. Nothing else really mattered while I was in school. And that story I happen to call "It Sucks to Be Me." Jumping ahead a little bit. This is 8th grade. I always loved how they called us seniors in 8th grade, kind of like making us feel good before we go into high school. It's kind of like the way we call old people senior citizens to make them feel good about themselves before they go to hell. I remember we had this teacher, in my school, back to my school, they were into very stupid charity events. I'm very for charity events, doing good things for other people, but there's a certain line that you should not be crossed when it comes to doing charity events. They had us freshly squeezed orange juice for a local soup kitchen. They just threw the entire school in the lunchroom and just had us just had oranges all over, like just say, okay, go squeeze oranges. Like no one had any idea what they were doing. People are throwing oranges, like nothing is getting done. Like to the soup kitchen with like an empty bowl of like two pits or something. It really did not work out. I don't know what they were thinking. And so I remember we had this teacher, Mr. Oh, that was also when I learned that they don't only serve soup at a soup kitchen. That was something that I learned on that day as well. We had this teacher, Mr. Legoux. I swear that was his name. He was. A little bit about Mr. Legoux. He was really short, really bald, and really short. Yeah, short seems to be the theme of the night, I guess. So Mr. Legoux was that teacher who basically made the most colossal error by deciding to choose teaching as his profession. He had no chance. He had like his tie was always like on backwards, and he always had like strings all over his belly. I don't know what he was ever thinking. He never really accomplished anything in class. And so this Mr. Legoux, so there were some guys in the class who decided, I guess they maybe planned from before, but they decided to take some oranges and use them to pelt Mr. Legoux while he was teaching. So even though Mr. Legoux generally looked dirty, compared to how he looked after pelted him with about 24 oranges ranging in 2 to 5 inches in diameter, he was looking pretty fresh at the beginning. Yeah. And so I remember the worst part about this whole scene, this war scene going on, this one-way war with him just standing there not knowing what to do. The worst part was that it was like almost in slow motion because he was defenseless. It was like a very slow progression of an attack on this little guy in the room. We didn't really call him teacher. He was just like someone who happened to be in a certain area from like 5:45 to like 6:45 or something. So he's just being pelted, with these oranges, and he's completely helpless. And it was really cruel of us at the time. And yeah, I mean, he actually, come to think of it, he was probably that guy with the mucus taking him. Someone else was talking about that. Very likely that was him. And yeah, I mean, he was a nice guy, and he really didn't deserve anything that we ever did to him. Yeah, he wrote a book, like he was a normal guy, he was literally writing a book, like a good book. Anything that we did. That story I call Sucks to Be Him.